Hi guys, this is yours truly Christine with Exhibit Africa Inc. I want to welcome you to another episode of our African art series. Let's talk about it. And today's main focus is gonna be on Africa's music instruments. But before we get started, I want to thank you for following, for liking, and for commenting. And also I would like to thank all those that have been previously following us. Please don't forget, if you haven't, to please follow, subscribe to our YouTube channel, and also check out our website in order to support our Ubuntu initiative, which allows us to take time and put together educational content for you and I. And if you want us to continue with this content, or if you feel like you're benefiting from the content that we're bringing you, please kindly subscribe to our YouTube channel so you don't miss out on any more content, and also support our Ubuntu initiative. Without any further ado, please let's get started with Africa's musical instruments. So the information I'm sharing is compiled by contemporaryafricanart.com, brought to you by yours truly Christine, courtesy of Exhibit Africa Ubuntu initiative. So let's get started. Musical instruments in Africa are not only used for making music. They are used to communicate to both man and spirit, translating and emitting daily experiences and events. They serve a variety of roles. Some may be confined to religious or ceremonial occasions. Others are used in a more secular fashion for entertainment. There may be restrictions to the age, gender, and social status of the player. The instruments range in size and complexity, from handheld objects to large, elaborate devices constructed of many parts. And even today, they are mostly crafted from natural materials using age-old methods. Most widely spread and played instruments in Africa are the drum, the xylophone, the mbira, rattles, and shakers. The one-string musical bowl, played all over the continent but now nearly abandoned, was once responsible for all the vocal scales that are used in today's African music. Historical influences and migratory movement of people have defined both the style of music and the type of instruments played in various regions. Most notable is the influence of Islam and Arabic musical traditions into northern and West African countries. Now, there are four main categories of music instruments plus percussion. So the first one we're gonna talk about is idiophones. Idiophones are activated and self-sounding resonant solids, are divided into the rhythm idiophonic instruments such as the slit drums, the rattles, shakers, scrappers, clappers, bells, and gongs. Iodophonic instruments are the easiest to play and to source and construct. One of the oldest is the gankogwe, a bell instrument played by the Iwe people of Ghana. I do apologize if I'm not pronouncing this right. It's made from forged iron. The double bell is gonged with a wooden stick to make a deep resonating sound. The basic skeleton of all orchestral music played in Togo, Ghana, and Benin. Bells and rattles have ritual or ceremonial functions, as well as just for fun and play. Rattles and shakers are widely placed all over Africa and exist in a huge variety of shapes, sizes, and materials, both natural and man-made, like using animal gallbladders, leather, boa fruits, coconuts, cowrie shells, cork cans, butter tops, vegetable gourds, bronze bells, reeds, whatever can be shaken and rattled. Shakers or shakeries are filled with anything from dried seeds of maize kernels to fine petals and stones. They are primarily made from dried vine gourds. They are primary and secondary shakers. Primary are handheld and secondary are worn on various parts of the body like wrists, ankles, and are activated by the performers. They can also be strapped on their instruments to make extra sound or act as modifiers. Scrapers are knotted pieces of bamboo or wood over which a stick is rubbed. Let's look at the melodic iodophonic instruments such as the lamellophones and xylophones. Lamellophones, also called linguophones or thumb pianos, include the mbira, nzavanzimu, nyunga, which is the traditional name, the kalimba or karimba, which is a non-traditional, the saza or sansu, and the Jew's hump. Sounds are generated by plucking flexible turned tongue of metal, wood, cane, or other material attached at one end of a small board or mounted on a resonator such as a box. Gourd or tin and plucked with the thumbs or fingers. Simple manual mbiras have 6 to 8 keys, but they can go up to 36 keys. These instruments are usually played by men and boys, but increasingly so by females. The mbira nzavanzimu, voice of the ancestors, have more than one layer of tongues. A typical one consists of between 22 to 28 keys constructed from metal and affixed to a hardwood soundboard in 3 different registers, 2 on the left and 1 on the right. The kangombela is a unique form of music played in the Binga district of Zimbabwe. It is played with an instrument akin to the mbira but with lesser keys in its notes. A kalimba is a South African version of a mbira that is tuned into a Western scale, but historically it was the name given to the Northwest tribes of Zimbabwe. Now let's look at the xylophone. Xylophone include the marimba in South and Eastern Africa, the balo or balafone in Western Africa, ban in Burkina Faso, and madinda or makandinda log xylophone in Uganda. Xylophones are generally a box shape with keys mounted over wooden frame and gold resonators suspended underneath. The frame can be low to the ground or mounted on legs. The guards are graduated in size in relation to the pitch required of the wood slabs. Some xylophones, like the amadinda, do not have resonators. They have a long history in Africa and can be seen as musical imitation of a language. Sosobala is the name given to the xylophone, which is a national treasure of Guinea. Only recently returned from France in 2002. Its 800-year-old legacy is being kept and preserved by the Kouyaté family in a village in Guinea, reminding the Mande people of their glorious past. The gil is the national instrument of the Lobi and the Gara people of Burkina Faso. Ghana and the Ivory Coast, the grill is the national instrument of the Lobi and the Gara people of Burkina Faso, Ghana, and the Ivory Coast. With 14 wooden slats, it is played by just about every male in the community to some degree of competence. However, the main musician will spend a lifetime composing and perfecting his play before he is considered worthwhile of addressing the ancestral spirits. A congil is played at funerals and a bogel at festivals. Now let's look at the cordophones. Cordophones are stringed instruments include humps, musical bowls, reels, fiddles, lutes, and zithers. Musical bowls are mostly played in Southern Africa and include earth balls, flexible pole in the ground, bent with a string attached. Mouth balls, the mouth helps the amplification when struck, and the resonator balls like the one as shown in the picture with a calabash, as the one shown in the picture has a calabash resonator. Sounds are made by bowing, plucking, and striking the string. West Africa, specifically Mali and the Mande people, has many of these hump lute type instruments, but the most widely known and used is the kora. Traditional koras have 21 strings, 11 played by the left hand and 10 from the right. The instrument is played upright with the strings facing towards the player. The stick and trough zithers are positioned horizontally. The number of tunable strings on humps vary from 3 to 4 strings, such as found in the balafon or molo, to 7 or 8 strings attached to a notable bridge, such as the camel ngoni. Some of the sounds are similar to a banjo, others are classical guitar, and still others to a classical guitar. Some of the sounds are similar to a banjo, others to a classical guitar, and still others to a hump. They can be listened to as a solo performance or part of a group of flutes and drums. Humps or kudu are one of the main stringed instruments in Africa, and these days they are mostly found south of the Sahara. They are quiet instruments that usually accompany a singer or poet in storytelling, but they are also used as part of another process among the Pongwe of Gabon. An 8-stringed wombi hump accompanies a song for healing the ill. They have all but disappeared as a practicing instrument from some cultures such as the Magbetu, but are still honored as part pieces of their detailed and intricate carving. Now let's check out the aerophones. Aerophones or wind instruments include flutes, whistles, reed pipes, trumpets, and horns. Aerophones, any class of musical instrument in which aerophones are any musical class of instruments in which a vibrating mass of air produces the initial sound, including bull roars and sirens. They are found in many countries throughout Africa and are normally incorporated with dancing, the musicians having to synchronize their footwork along with playing their notes. Whistles are made from reeds or these days metal tubing, while flutes are produced from indigenous bamboo or cane. In countries like Chad, Burkina Faso, Sudan, Uganda, and the DRC, cooperative assemblers are over 100 men. Cooperatives assembles of over 100 men flute players are sometimes performed for special occasions. Each flutist has just one note to play. This allows for the strong community performances, each player dependent upon the other for the end result. Horns are generally made from cow horn, ivory, or wild animal horn like the kudu. The most desirable and sought after horn, which is kept for royal occasions. These are side-blown. They are side-blown in impressive one-note blasts and are used to convey messages, to announce arrivals or proceedings, as well as just for musical events. Most commonly played in the Rift Valley countries and in Cote d'Ivoire. Now let's check out the membranophones. The membranophones. These skin-covered instruments form the beat and the heart of African music. They generally come in three forms: hourglass, goblet, and kettle. For detailed info on the membraphones, we will at some point check out the African drums. Now let's move on to the percussion, voice and body instruments, which include yodeling, whisper, singing, body and tube stamping, and hand clapping. Percussion is the integral to African dance and spiritual music. Multiple layers of interlocking rhythm patterns ensure a vibrant and dynamic performance. The combination of voice and instrument is essential and is always accompanied by swaying, clapping, and dancing. Singing is a major component of musical expression. Solo, choral, monophonic, polyphonic, ululating is a long, tremulous, and wavering high-pitched sound that is achieved by moving the tongue rapidly from left to right repetitively. It is also commonly used in celebrations. Now let's check out bands and orchestras. A xylophone can be played solo or in ensembles like the Chopi tribe in Mozambique, who use up to 30 instruments in their spectacular and complex timbalia orchestras. All members and generations of the family and community play together, but sadly it's becoming an outmoded form of music expression. Malimbas are modern xylophones, often tuned in Western style scale. They come in three pitches: bass, tenor, soprano, and piccolo. They are taught in schools throughout Africa, and both genders play them, with up to 8 to 10 standing musicians hampering it out in joyous and exuberant displays. Now let's look at the decoration of instruments. African musical instruments also serve as work of art, carved into surprising shapes, covered with patterns, and decorated with beads, feathers, paint, and cloth. Sometimes figures are sculptured into the instrument. Sometimes figures are sculptured into the instrument as spiritual tokens, empowering the musician to filter the godly and ancestral message. Great significance of detail is encountered, such as carefully stitched hides covering the sound box, or figureheads deeply etched and incised, showing specifics like the hairstyle and the earrings. These pieces have been crafted with eminence, skill, and precision, and the aesthetics being as important as sometimes, if not more than, the musical application. Now let's check out the contemporary instruments. Modern African music includes music based on traditional music fusing Eastern and Western styles and instruments, world music, and music that is very progressive, embracing technology and the very latest of sounds and beats. Instruments continue to be made and produced in many African countries for the commercial market, like shakers, mbiras, penny whistlers, rados, but others are carved and strung with great care and precision for the many professional musicians and performers on the continent. The flutes are made, these flutes are made from woody river bank vine in Guinea, West Africa. They are termed as transverse three-holed flute or tambin or fula, made famous by musicians of Malinke fluent traditions such as Lassine Conde. Other renowned florists are Dramane Dembele, Omou Sangare, and Issa Bagayongo. Okay, from a fun point of view, you can also find very many recycled and handmade instruments which bear a testament of how important music is to local communities and how creative and indigenous the people are. Now let's check out the contemporary musicians. There are many prominent contemporary African musicians whose mastery of African instrument music is lauded and appreciated both on and off the continent. Let's look at Victor Gama. He's an Angolan born and composer. He's Angolan born and a composer, performer, and designer of the innovative contemporary music and musical instruments. He is intent on changing the face of African music. He is also an electronics engineer and creates new sounds and new music in a rigorous way. His exhibition performances, called Instrumentals, at the Royal Albert Hall in London featured beautifully designed instruments that are highly technical as well. He has performed with groups like Kronos Quarter after a 5-year collaboration with them. Modern styles have been formulated in Africa after Western influences first filtered through in the 1960s. By the early 1970s, a percussive style called juju had evolved, a dense blend of electric guitars and percussion instruments. By the 1980s, African artists like Thomas Mamfuno in Zimbabwe had moved from playing their traditional style music, in this case mbira, on the guitar to challenging his guitarists to rather accommodate themselves to the mbiras. Contemporary musicians on the continent have embraced both worlds, entering into collaborations with Westerners who themselves have embraced African style music. The outcome is dynamic and invigorating. Some of the established musicians and performers include Gelda Kamara Basse, who was born in 1966 in West Africa and plays the riti, a one-string fibo. He comes from a long history of Gambian griots, well, storytellers, and is often seen performing in Paris. Okay, so we're gonna take a break and we'll be right back shortly to continue on with some of Africa's established musicians and performers.